Hey, welcome to Fabulous Friday, the first Friday of 2025. I'm Sunny Danforth. We are still winning. I am not tired of winning, and I'll tell you, it's just beginning. There's a lot of stuff in the news, and it can be dismaying even, but don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged. We're going to dive right in tonight into Oregon, and which is where I live, for those of you who don't know, Northeast Oregon. Well, the powers that be, the Dems, have decided Oregon begins fluorescent light bans to promote sustainability. Sustainability of what? I have no idea, but it is, like it or not, Oregon's officially banned the sale of fluorescent light bulbs as of Wednesday. I didn't know that until today, and looking around at some different stories and things of what's going on here in Oregon. And they've done that because they contain minute amounts of mercury. And just the other day, I was talking with friends saying, I wish I had a thermometer that had mercury in it. They were so accurate, just accurate thermometers. So this is from KEZI News, this story. And so there you are. If you wanted a fluorescent light bulb and you didn't know that they were banned, you're SOL. Unless you live close to Washington, maybe you can buy them there. I don't know. Maybe they're not banned there. Or if you live close to Idaho, I bet you could buy them still in Idaho. I'm really not sure. This article posts a picture that says, due to federal energy conservation legislation that went into effect January 1, 2008, some light bulbs that you may be accustomed to buying may no longer be available. Remember when Trump said, bring back the regular light bulbs? Yeah, well, things are going to get better. Maybe not in Oregon, because our governor and the Democrats in charge, and especially the lobbyists, those darn lobbyists, the paid, the lawful bribers, truly, lobbying is legal bribery. And that's where a lot of this comes in. They and those that write the bills. It's crazy, 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 crazy. So that's the first one. The next one is plastic foam containers are no longer, they're banned starting in the new year in Oregon. So plastic foam containers are banned in Oregon starting on Wednesday, January 1. Food vendors, restaurants in Oregon can't use plastic foam takeout containers due to the law that was passed by the legislature in 2023. It's the usage, the sale, and distribution of the plastic foam containers, and it prohibits businesses from selling foam packing peanuts, and also single-use foam coolers. So I'm going to guess, like coffee cups, those foam coffee cups. Many businesses have already replaced their foam containers with paper or reusable plastic containers, or have avoided them prior to the ban due to, don't you know, the environmental concerns. So when I read this story, I remembered when my husband and I were in oh my gosh, Carol, you still have one of those? Shh. Oh, I wish I did. I wish I had one of those thermometers. I was thinking my husband and I were either in Ecuador or Peru in an airplane, and we're flying up over the Andes. And I look down and I go, wow, look at all that white water on that river. And we got closer to the river and elevation, and I said, Charlie, that's not whitewater. It was styrofoam. And it's sad to say that, but those two countries are huge polluters. And it's not, I'm going to say, and you might not agree with me, it's not the people's fault. I remember in America when the don't litter ban started. I don't know about you guys, but I remember when this don't litter ban all got started. Well, it is about educating the people that, hey, we've got trash receptacles. Let's put them in the trash receptacle. Don't throw it on the ground. Don't just throw it in the river, because the river takes it away. But when you have a culture that uses banana leaves, say, or they weave their own, using palm fronds, their own containers, those things are totally biodegradable and are very ecological, actually. So when that's been generationally the habit of the culture, and then they get a plastic or they get a styrofoam, well, it all still goes in the river because the river takes it away. Anyway, just a side note was, so that's what, when I read this article that they are now banning plastic foam containers, that's what it made me think of. That it's, and this is the thing. We have, you can't get a plastic straw, but yet then they'll have single use forks covered in a little plastic, it doesn't, there's so much that doesn't make sense. And it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. Does it have to start somewhere? Yes. Is there overkill? Yes. Things can always get made better. They truly, truly can. But leave it to Oregon. Let me tell you, leave it to Oregon. So if you didn't know, no more plastic foam containers. Don't be a little, restaurant Nazi if you happen to see one. Don't do that. Don't be that. That's just, stay out of their business. Another wonderful story, I do say that in jest, about our governor. She is signed an executive order that requires state-funded projects to include agreements. And this is actually, the Associated General Contractor says the pre-holiday order came as a surprise and will reduce competition and raise costs. And yes, it will. I used to be a contractor in another life, a landscape contractor, actually in California. And so if I was any contractor who's bidding on a state-funded project, they have got to now go and have it requires them to have a labor agreement. Basically, they say that term, it must include labor agreements. That's union. I'm not anti-union, but it shouldn't be. They must go union. That they must have. So the order requires the construction projects that receive state funding and for which labor is more than 15% of total costs include project labor agreements. And so there you have it. This is to absolutely help the unions. The unions help deliver the election. It's a reward for sure. It's a reward for sure. And it's too bad because it does stifle competition. Free markets and competition are what help bring costs down, actually. And I've got a real good friend of mine that has a business, and their business, they unionized their business because it was there were so many jobs that they could not get. They couldn't bid on. They couldn't even bid on them because they were not union, and that helped their business very, very much. Um, and that's okay if that's what you want to do. But for the government to come in, the governor to come in and say, you must do that, that's the part I'm against. If a business wants to do it, much like, what was it? There was another bill, and it had to do with this too, the unions. Oh, I know. It was actually on the ballot. Remember, it was on the ballot for the pot growers, and that they must, and it passed. That one passed. So everybody's pot is going to cost a lot more money, is what that amounts to. They were forced to negotiate with the union and have agreements with the union. So it's basically government, I'm going to say government funded, but it isn't. Pot shops or your pharmaceuticals or whatever. It was the measure, and that failed. So here you have, she's signed an executive order, but that was on the pot shop passed, but she's now rewarding the unions even further in private industry, and that sucks. From my viewpoint, that sucks. I'm not for that. I'm not for that at all. But I'm not a big. And then what else is she doing? Our clueless COTEC. This is an article from Oregon Catalyst, and headlined our clueless COTEC she's planning 1,200 government job hiring spree. But you know what? The budget calls for hiring 1,200 new state government employees. Well, on Wednesday, I talked about how all these businesses were laying off, but yet more jobs were coming in government. Well, sure enough, here's the story. And Intel cut 1,300, Nike 750, Wells Fargo 700, OHSU cut 500 jobs, and the governor says we're going to hire 1,200 new state government employees. I wonder what they're going to do. They might be going to be working remotely, like from home, where they can sit and knit. Nothing against the knitters. Trust nothing against the knitters. Maybe they would be playing tiddlywinks. Maybe I should say that. So, that's our governor. We're going to hire more people. Well, at least it's not 87,000 IRS workers. That's what Biden wanted to do. And not to make things any, the governor didn't do this, but these are just a little more of what's going on in Oregon. The Sherry's restaurants shuttered all of their Oregon locations. And on social media, when this was happening, on social media, I was reading about in Pendleton, there was a Sherry's there, and Hermiston, there's a Sherry's there. And I live in Umatilla County, and those are in Umatilla County. And on social media going, no, they're going to remodel. They really didn't close. People were in denial going, really? Sherry's closed up? Yes, Sherry's closed up, but it's even worse than that. The landlords that owned those buildings, or many of the buildings, are suing Sherry's for millions in unpaid rent after the chain shutters Oregon locations. And it's roughly 15, this is a story from KGW 8, roughly 15 different landlord companies across Oregon have filed lawsuits for failing against Sherry's restaurants for failing to pay rent before the chain closed its doors. Now, some of them are paying for rent that wasn't paid, and others are suing also for rent that they had contracts, and now they've broken their contracts. So they're suing for rent they would have received. And it's really bad. There was one in here. The landlord claims Sherry's owes close to $4 million in overdue rent, late fees, and future rent payments. And this person says it was just dragged out to the very end. They didn't even, one landlord said they didn't pay for the last 3 months at all. And a Multnomah County judge found Sherry's in default of $45,240 of past due rent in Troutdale. The judge said Sherry's owes $2.22 million in future rent payments through 2036 per the company's lease agreement. And it's not just Sherry's of Oregon. This article talks about Sherry's in Oregon, but in Walla Walla, the Sherry's closed up as well. And I have a feeling it's like shuttered everywhere. And the law firm, Miller Nash, they filed a lawsuit against Sherry's, claiming Sherry's didn't pay them roughly $390,000 for its legal work. The judge ruled in the firm's favor by default because Sherry's didn't respond to the lawsuit. Well, you can thank the Biden economy. You can also thank the Oregon governor and Oregon legislators for this type of thing. Because when the economy gets so bad, people are not even going out to a Sherry's or a Denny's. That's when, and then you're taxing them. Remember, here in Oregon, if you have a business that is doing, if you have a business that is doing over $1 million, then you are paying a gross receipts tax. $1 million of sales or business in the state of Oregon, you're paying a gross receipts tax. We have a cat tax here. There are so many taxes that are hurting businesses really bad. And actually, Lori, I see your Sherry's in Walla Walla. Actually, that is opened up as a Denny's. They are not coming back. And they're not coming back. So Sherry's in Walla Walla closed up. It's now a Denny's. You go by there. I haven't been in there, but you go by and I see it's a nice looking Denny's on the outside. But I see Lori about the COVID loans. Why couldn't they get those COVID loans to help out their business? Their suffering business. This represents a lot of jobs. It's not just the business, oh gosh, it closed. This is a lot of jobs, a lot of people that had to go find a job. And on social media, when this was happening in Pendleton, somebody goes, oh yeah, I was just hired there 2 weeks ago. And then I showed up today and it's closed. They didn't even tell me, so there's a lot to be said about Biden's economy and what our governor is doing. Well, Seattle, we've got Washington, Oregon, and California, the West leftist states. They're all kind of going the same route. Well, Seattle set a minimum wage of over $20. And so what happened? The Seattle, on the very first day, the Bebop Waffle Shop, never heard of them, in Seattle, threw a big party on December 31st and permanently locked its doors on January 1. said, we're not doing that. It doesn't pencil. So this is what happens. Instead of less taxes, less regulation, and letting free markets boom and let businesses thrive, they get to make money. That ends up with tax revenues for the area and providing jobs. That's what happens. But and then the thought of Biden just coming in my head saying, "Oh, to the fellows when he shut down the pipeline." He says, "Well, you guys can just go get a tech job, to pipe fitters. Yeah, just go find another job doing something else. You'll get trained in something else." This is Biden's economy, but this is Seattle. Seattle, this is something that they've voted in, and so businesses will be closing. And in this article that's from PJ Media, they said that they expect 5 to 8% of all small businesses to close. Oh, how's that working out for you? 5 to 8% of all small businesses will close. That's not good. That's not good for people needing jobs. It's not good for those property owners that have commercial property, for sure. It's not smart. It's not smart. Yes, all the big chains, restaurants, Big Lots, Albertsons. There's a lot happening there. Yeah, I'm reading some of your comments. Yeah, it's so those things are not helping. But Trump is coming. But when the states make those types of decisions, no matter what Trump does, is not going to help. And when you lose that small business, you might think, well, it'll take another one will open up. It takes 5 years for a business to become successful. It takes a lot of capital, a lot of hard work for a startup of a successful business. And like Sherry's it was a family-owned business and been around a long time. I can't tell you how many times I've over the years pop in Sherry's and have something to eat, and they always had good pie, for sure, right? Crazy, crazy. Well, Coos County didn't vote for a jail ballot, a levy measure, a tax levy measure. So 30 inmates were released early, and the Coos County jail capacity was cut in half. Oh, shame on you, voters. You didn't pass this levy. The levy would have created a 5-year tax rate of 69 cents per 1,000 of assessed value. And the money would have gone toward maintaining jail staff and capacity. But 63% of the county voters rejected the measure. So there you are. Coos County, you never know what the sheriff could do, but yet cutting the jail capacity? I don't know. I don't know enough about it, but you can, and the sheriff only has so much budget to do with. So do you want people patrolling, or do you want people being guarded and dealt with in the jail? You want it all, right? We want it all. But Coos County is now 30 inmates released early. And I'm hoping they didn't do the worst of the worst, like our governor would, or Biden. Oh my gosh, the two of them are a pair, absolute pair. Here's an article that is from K2. It says rural Oregon sees a spike in unsheltered homeless. Well, so there is a yearly one-time count of people experiencing homelessness nationwide. And it suggests that homelessness, and particularly unsheltered homelessness, well, what is sheltered versus unsheltered? Those are the ones that aren't in shelters? I guess so. It's growing much more quickly in rural Oregon than in metro Oregon areas. And much of the disparity could be the difference in data collection methods. Advocates say some of the disparity accurately depicts resources and funding gaps in rural counties. Of course, the small rural counties do not have the funding to handle homelessness. And especially in a state like Oregon, that we're just inviting them in. As a business owner, as a tax person who pays taxes, quite frankly, I don't want these people coming from somewhere else and us doing that at all, helping. Uh, we created an environment welcoming in people with mental health and drug addiction issues. And that's where a lot of this is coming from, in my opinion. Then I've just talked about the people losing their jobs. So if you don't have enough jobs, then that also adds to it. But I think a lot of it grew a lot when the drugs were legalized in Oregon, and we're a sanctuary state. Those are all things collectively that contribute to these problems, and it's just not a good thing at all. Well, the big news today, Johnson got reelected speaker and on the first ballot. Surprisingly enough. I'm glad he did. It had a little bit of a hiccup. There's a story here from the Epic Times. I'll get that posted for you. And I was very glad to see that it did happen. I was watching it live, and well, for some of it anyway. And I'm going, he's not going to get this on the first ballot because there were 3 people that didn't vote for him. And it was, we had Thomas Massey from Kentucky, and Chip Roy, certainly. And so Massey, he said, you can, put bamboo under my fingernails and everything, anything. I'm not doing it. Well, he ended up being the sole one who did not vote for Johnson. And Ralph Norman of South Carolina, he became the second defector, voting for Jim Jordan. And Rep. Keith Self followed up with a vote for Byron Donalds. But those 2 actually ended up changed their vote. And there were other abstentions as well, but ended up through some, after, I saw on the ticker tape tonight, well, after a couple of phone calls, we got it changed, right? Because let me tell you, Trump was watching this too, going, who the hell's not voting for him? Who are that? Let me talk to him. And I can just see it, and I can imagine, what he was saying for sure. Because, Trump got elected, I mean, like, so huge with our electoral college, but also a national popular vote. And then we got the House and the Senate. This is what we have to, this is Trump's agenda, and we need Trump's agenda. This is why these other people got elected. Across the nation, why we picked up seats in the Senate. What was it? I think six seats were picked up in the Senate. We should have had a lot more in the House, but because ballot counting went on for a month, where we would have had more in the House, but with ballot counting going on for a month, we didn't lose some. We and didn't win some of the seats that we had on election day and the day after. And hopefully those will be looked into, and investigated. So I'm happy. Trump wanted Johnson, and so therefore our Congress needed to elect Johnson as the speaker. That's who Trump wants. Let's get things done. I will say I was able to read a little bit of what he said after the fact. And he said that Republicans have a mandate to implement the America First agenda, and as speaker, that will be his priority. And frankly, that's it. He talked about we're going to be cutting the size of the bureaucracy here. And I will tell you, the looks on the Democrats' faces was a joy to see, quite frankly. We have to cut our government. It is too big. It's too big. And so I'm glad about that. A little story that I thought was kind of funny. We'll have to see what happens. Honduras threatens to close the U.S. military base in response to mass deportation plan. Well, the president, Xiomara Castro, she I think will probably have a change of tune after talking to Trump. I really do. A lot of people tend to have a change of heart after talking to Trump. Remember, he is the wheeler dealer. He wrote The Art of the Deal, and I think she'll come to a different. I hope she does come to a different understanding. But I think it was El Salvador that said, "Hey, we'll take whoever you're deporting. Come on, bring them on in. That's okay." Because they've got such a great president there that's going, "Oh yeah, we want to help you clean up," because they've cleaned up their story there, or their country. So for me, that's why I said still winning. It is buckle up. It's going to get interesting. Now I want to talk about a few things that you might not have heard about, and that I think it's good to report on. There is some really bad stuff going on in the UK. Really bad. And this story is from PJ Media, that UK cops arrest a drunk teenage girl, but ignore the 7 men with her. I don't know if you've heard about this anywhere else. But this was I believe she was a young girl. I'll just say that. A young girl, nearly naked, if not naked, with 7 men. And she was drunk, and the neighbor heard screams, which is what brought the police there. And so the police arrest the girl for being drunk and convicted her, but did nothing for the 7 Pakistani men. And before coming on tonight, as I was cooking dinner, I had an opportunity to watch a little bit of news, and I will tell you, it was a good coverage, a good discussion about what is going on in the UK. This is nothing new. This is something that has been going on for about 30 years, and nobody wants to talk about it or do anything about it, because they'll get called a racist, or they'll get called, get canceled or something. And another one, I saw a senior citizen A white, gray-haired senior citizen in the UK was being arrested. I saw this video today. Being arrested because his social media post offended somebody. And I'll tell you, thank your lucky stars. Thank God that Trump got elected in the United States, because this is where we would be heading had the Harris Waltz been elected. And I say that seriously, because this is what they want to do. They want everybody to comply. They want to control you. And this is really bad what's going on in the UK. I've seen through social media, oh, the UK's lost its way, it's really gone bad. And then this story, it's like, oh my gosh. Well, then the Rob Smith covered this tonight. Covered this tonight on Newsmax, and he had a really good interview with a guy who's from there, who's actually been doing an investigative journalism in regarding this. And this has been going on for like 30 years. This is awful. This pedophile grooming gangs is what's going on. And to have this young girl who's intoxicated, 13 years old, I believe, have her being arrested and not the men. She's naked or almost naked, highly intoxicated. Well, maybe the intoxication part is legal there. I know like Germany, they didn't used to have, I don't know if they do. It didn't matter. You could drink whatever age, it doesn't matter. I don't know about that in the UK. And there was 100. Okay, so in this article, it says in January, a review revealed girls in Rockdale were left at the mercy of pedophile grooming gangs for years because of failings by senior police and council bosses. It focused on 111 cases in the town from 2004 to 2013 and set out a series of failed investigations by GMP, that's the Gendarmerie Police, identifying 96 men still deemed a potential risk to children. Rockdale Council said it was determined to ensure these terrible failures did not happen again. And this kind of goes along with, the whole social experiment they're trying to do, saying, well, there are people, they were trying to make it very normal. There are adults that are what did they call it? Child attracted. No, that's called pedophilia. There's no other name for it. And trying to make that normal. And so over in Europe, apparently, they didn't want to do anything about this. This is the gist that I got from listening tonight, because these people are from Pakistan. The men are from Pakistan. And so they didn't want to make waves. Oh, well, you're picking on that race. Well, you know what? Pick on them. What's illegal is illegal. So for 2 decades, the plight of thousands of young girls, barely teenagers, was swept under the carpet. Police forces, councils, charities, and politicians elevated community relations over protecting vulnerable women from monstrous sexual violence. They allowed little girls to be raped rather than risk being accused of racism by highlighting their abuse. Their cowardice should haunt them. I'm quoting from this article. Writing in the Telegraph, Robert Jenrick, Shadow Secretary of State for Justice of the United Kingdom, he noted, and that was just a portion of what I was reading. And this is atrocious. atrocious. What does the monarchy have to say about this? I haven't heard anything yet. What does the monarchy have to say about that? And Lori, I see that. It's worldwide, Sunny, huge. And yes, you know what? It is. There's huge pedophilia rings. And, but so the Band-Aid's getting ripped off and the journal, one of the leading journalists, I can't think of his name right now, is in jail for bringing this to light. He is in jail for bringing that to light. So that's what they would rather do. Censor you. Put you in jail for telling the truth. Yeah. So, we've covered stories here on Captive Audience about in the UK that you're the thought police. You're praying across the street from an abortion clinic silently to yourself and you are arrested. So there's a lot happening. I wanted to call out a few other things that you might not have heard about. Here, this is from Epic Health. It's just part of Epic Times. Prenatal steroid use linked to autism, ADHD, risk in children, a study. And so researchers analyzed data from over 1 million births and of Danish children. A new study of over 1 million Danish children has linked prenatal exposure to common steroid medications used to prevent preterm births and improve fetal lung development. It's an increased risk of autism and attention deficit and other neurodevelopmental problems. Had no idea. I have no idea. If you have some friends that are pregnant, you might want to ask them about that type of thing. Some good news. Our U.S. Marshals have been busy in 2024. The U.S. Marshals arrested 74,222 fugitives, including 5,337 murder suspects. Hooray! The U.S. Marshals are doing something. So I did the math on that figure. That's 203 fugitives a day for the year of 2024. They've been busy. And I'm glad. I'm really glad. So, and the Marshals, I think, will get even busier when Trump is in. Get them the hell and gone, right? Hunt them, find them, and deport them if they are deportable. Let's get them gone. But if they're fugitives, they've escaped because of something. The agency reported in addition to homicide suspects, nearly 10,000 sex offenders were among those taken into custodies, and including individuals charged with failure to register as offenses and sexual assault. And so, and that's another thing that Oregon, we're not going to tell you who it is that's living next to you, that's moved into your neighborhood and whatnot. But I'm glad the U.S. Marshals have been doing that job. I cannot give that to Biden. That's just them doing their job as it's supposed to be done, I do believe. Some other good news is the appeals court strikes a final blow against Biden's net neutrality rule. And what this is, Biden tried to impose a rule that would censor, it would basically more censorship through the FCC. And they knew that the federal government's heavy hand would stifle innovation and discourage investment. So, but Donald Trump repealed this regulation in 2017. and Biden tried to impose it in 2023. And it is a Federal Communication Commission proposed internet providers be treated like telecoms. And so it was the agency dictating what they're going to do. Well, the appeals court says, no, you're not going to do it because this was overreach. And this is a win because of the Chevron deference, that an agency just can't make some rules that are going to stifle business. And so this is a huge win. So the appeals court blocked the effort, citing the FCC's lack of authority under the Communications Act. The recent blockbuster Supreme Court decision that repealed the Chevron deference, which eliminated agency interference in statutes with ambiguous language, will prevent any more attempts to impose net neutrality on companies. This is huge. And I will tell you, with the Department of Government Efficiency, we are going to see more of this. We are going to see agencies stripped of their oversight, things that Congress has not given them the right to do. And I love that. I totally love that. And the last bit of good news, let me post that one, is, on Wednesday when we were talking about the blast that happened there on the 1st. The 1st, January 1st was just 2 days ago, my friends. And Kevin Hoare is my co-host here, our co-host on Captive Audience. Here is a picture of him in the registered guard, and he is the port register. The port register, and he's in this New Orleans car into the crowd, and he is an alumnus of Notre Dame. So he was there to go see the game, and he's a fan, of course. And there he is showing the investigations in the background, of what was happening after the blast. So, hey, there's a picture of our Kevin. And so I wish him all the best. Safe travels coming home. I didn't pay attention to the game, so I can't say how that all went. So, everybody, thanks for being with us tonight. And don't forget, despite the bad news, despite things that are going on, we live in the best country in the world. And we are winning. Because even though in the state of Oregon went blue, the majority of Oregonians didn't vote for Trump. More did. I want to say it was like, what was that? About 14 points than they did, 8 years ago. We helped with the popular vote. And the mandate is for Trump to clean house, get this economy rolling. Let's get peace through strength and turn our nation around, but through him, because Trump is who he is. It's amazing watching how the world is changing before he's even sworn into office. There's going to be shenanigans. We're going to see a lot more things. Pay attention, be vigilant as you go out and about. And, it's because anything can happen. Anything can happen. There are things happening, but we still live in the best country in the world. I tell you that because, well, I mean it totally. There's a lot of traveling I've done. I haven't been everywhere, but from what I've seen, for sure, we do. And Trump loves our country. and he's going to make America great again. Oh, I saw a post today on social media on X that it's looking like, and I hope this is all true, that Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr., has enough votes to get confirmed for HHS. And I'll tell you, I look forward to things getting our government getting streamlined and America getting healthier. I absolutely do. So, everybody, have a great night. Have a good weekend. Hug your loved ones. Go out and have some fun. You know, we've got some record snow up in the mountains. And if you're into that, go out and have some fun. Go do whatever it is you like to do and do a little bit outside. Have a good night. Don't forget to share this message, share it around, share it around.